Okay, who is ready for a fun little silly goofy time? And we'll get to that. We'll get to our fun in a moment, but first, hello. I have to introduce myself. I am Simon, and I love YENA. I really do. I specifically love her music, but I've at this point made dozens of videos diving into groups, and I never really do solo artists. I've done solo artists exactly twice, and I want to do more soloists, so YENA is my catalyst. However, I did not just choose YENA out of a hat. I'm very excited to talk about her for a variety of reasons. First and foremost is that she's a fascinating artist, both in a musical sense, the way she seems to understand pop music in a way that no one else really seems to other than me is so interesting. Plus, her popularity arcs are very interesting, and we've established I do love her music, and she has wild pre-debut lore to her name. There's a lot to cover, okay? I have a lot of things that I'm gonna share that are very, very important to me, and we will get to all of that. We will get to all of that shortly, because I have gotten comments that it takes me too long to get to things, so I'm gonna try and speed this up, but I am gonna do my shoutouts really quickly. First, Smokey Glow. Smokey Glow, former YouTuber, made Evolution of videos. My original inspiration to make these deep dives. Her channel and Evolution of playlist will be in the description. Shout out to the Bestie. We love the Bestie. The Bestie tolerates me. The Bestie is also the reason these are slideshows, because when we were watching the Grammys 3 years ago now, and I was working on my Miss A video, she told me to make them a slideshow. And now I make slideshows. Lastly, Bean. Bean is the reason these videos are long as shit. Okay, this one, admittedly, I'm estimating, I don't know for sure, I obviously just started, but I'm thinking it's gonna be around an hour, and you're not allowed to complain about short. Okay, my last video was 3 hours long. Okay, I don't want to hear it. I'm allowed to make something a little shorter this time around, but you can thank Bean for all of that, for the lengthierness of these videos. She is the only reason I can make these long videos and enter new levels of derangement every single time. Last thing before we begin is disclaimers. Okay, some fans scare me. I'm filled with fear and terror, so I'm covering my bases so that no one's allowed to be mad at me, even though people still will be. Anyway, disclaimer number 1 is that there will be no IZ*ONE lore. That's not a firm no. I'm obviously gonna talk about it a little bit, but this video in particular is about YENA, the solo artist, so I'm not gonna talk all in depth about Produce 48. I'm not gonna get super into IZ*ONE and their years. I'm obviously gonna touch on it. If you watch my Le Sserafim video, actually, it's gonna be very similar to that. I'm gonna go a little more in depth here, but not a ton. It will be a brief discussion early on, and then I'm never talking about it again. Item number 2 is that I will be very focused on the music in this video. I'm fully aware, before anyone wants to tell me about this, I know YENA has been in 50 variety shows as an individual artist, okay? I know that she has acting credits to her name. I don't care. Those bore me, and it's my video. I can talk about whatever I want. If you want to make your own video, you can do that. Go right ahead. You can even use all the numbers I've pulled in this video. You have my blessing. I don't want to hear that I didn't talk about her variety show appearances. I'm here to talk about the music. I want to yap about the music. In a similar vein, item 3 is that I'm not covering everything. I say this in every video. You can go back to my very first History of, and I tell you at the start of that one that I'm not covering everything, and I constantly get comments about things that I've skipped. Someone got mad that I didn't go into enough depth about pre-debut Tuxt. I don't care, okay? I talk about whatever I want to in these videos. I'm obviously gonna, there are things that I wouldn't skip. I would never skip an album, but if there's a random one-off single that I don't like, if there's a show that I don't care about, I skip stuff. Okay, I'm gonna skip stuff. You can make your own video. I get so heated whenever I get those comments, because I'm I'm sorry, was the 3 hours not enough for you? Did I not compile enough information to keep you satisfied on your drive to work, or while you were folding laundry? I'm doing my best. Okay, I'm doing my best, and I don't want to hear that I'm skipping stuff. Okay. I took a breath. I had a drink. I had a sip of a drink, more accurately. Not like an alcoholic drink. It was a cherry Mountain Dew. But I had a beverage. I've breathed. I'm calm again. So we can now get to our final disclaimer, which is that there will be opinions at times. Okay? I have a lot of feelings about YENA and her music, and I'm gonna share all of them. There are YENA songs that I don't like, that I do actually think are kind of bad, and we all need to be okay with that. Because like when I tell you that YENA made one of the best pop debuts of all time, you can disagree with that. And that's totally fine. We can have differing opinions. I love that for us. But with that, it is time. We can officially begin the history, the lore of YENA. YENA was born on September 29th, 1999 in Seoul, South Korea, and had a complicated childhood. That's actually a very bad term for it. YENA had cancer as a kid. She had what sounds like pretty serious lymphoma when she was younger, like serious to the point that the doctors apparently told her parents she was not going to survive. She obviously did, like I'm sitting here 27 years later, but that is very scary. I am genuinely glad she's fine. Anyway, now for the actual, like, fun part of her childhood, which is her brother. This is very funny to me, but also a little sad. So YENA's brother is someone of the group Speed. For those who don't know Speed, you are not alone. No one remembers Speed, including me, frankly. Speed debuted, I want to say in 2012. I'm going fully off memory. Speed debuted in, like, the first half of the 2010s. They were one of, like, that first wave of, like, the end of second gen, beginning of third gen boy groups. They were one of those. Okay? YENA's brother debuts. We fast forward a couple years. We're talking, like, 15-ish-year-old YENA. Okay? Her brother's been in the industry for a couple years. YENA goes to her parents and is like, mother, father, I would like to follow in older brother's footsteps. I want to be an idol. And her parents were like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Your brother is flopping, his group has no fans. Why would you want to do that? YENA obviously did eventually get her way. She would join Polaris Entertainment very briefly. She was there for like 6 months max. She then transferred to Yuehua Entertainment, a company I have very complicated feelings about. See, you think I mean one thing. I'm a unique fan. I mean something totally different, but we're not here to talk about them. We're focusing on YENA. And Yuehua knew they had something special with YENA. They immediately put her to work. She was on an SBS cooking show in 2017. She did that for about 6 months or so before Yuehua got a different idea and sent her on a different show. That is right! It's Produce 48 time. Yuehua would send YENA and a few of the future Everglow members onto Produce 48 to represent the company, and this show would run summer of 2018. So that's where we are in the timeline right now. We're in summer of 2018. But YENA did phenomenally well on Produce 48. She started out in the top 12, she was always ranked pretty high, and she would finish the show in 4th place, earning her a spot in IZ*ONE. Thus we begin the IZ*ONE years. IZ*ONE would debut in October of 2018 with La Vie en Rose. And this is not an IZ*ONE video. It was actually going to be, that is a fun fact. I started this video off thinking I was going to make an IZ*ONE video. I made a YENA video, but it did mean that I listened to a lot of IZ*ONE. And I will say, La Vie en Rose is one of the best pop debuts of all time. We don't talk enough about how good La Vie en Rose is, and that's a shame, because in the brief stint I was listening to a lot of IZ*ONE, I was reminded of how good it is, and I'm now listening to it consistently again, and it is a blessing. We're refocusing, back to YENA. YENA would debut as the group's main rapper, lead dancer, and lead vocal, so she was pretty involved across the board with IZ*ONE. She was also one of the more public members of the group. She was one of the ones that sort of had that magic in a bottle variety show-wise. Yuehua already knew that. They'd been sending her on shows, but IZ*ONE really ramped it up. She was on several shows during the group's run. Anyway, IZ*ONE would disband in April of 2021, so we got a couple years of YENA in IZ*ONE. And the thing that makes IZ*ONE so fascinating, and circling back to when I was briefly making a deep dive on them, is that I feel like IZ*ONE is unique amongst the Produce groups as the one where, like, the members actually went on to bigger and better things, right? Like, if you look at the former WANA 1 members, the former IOI members, none of them really surpassed the original group, right? Like, even at their peaks, like, Somi and Chungha were not outperforming mainline IOI even during their brief career. IZ*ONE is kind of the exception, because you have members in LE SSERAFIM, you have members in IVE, you arguably have YENA, who have bigger hits to their name than IZ*ONE ever got, but IZ*ONE was massive, right? Like, I feel like that's what we forget when you look back at IZ*ONE, because you think about, like, Wonyoung, and you're like, okay, well, now Wonyoung's in IVE, and IVE is the biggest girl group to ever do it. So, like, you forget that IZ*ONE was really popular. They were consistently one of the best-selling girl groups physically, had multiple major domestic hits. IZ*ONE was really popular. But YENA was in a unique position, because if you think about the other IZ*ONE members that I just named, right, like, a lot of them had groups lined up. That's sort of the MO if you send your idol on a produce group, is you're ready to slot them in to your upcoming group. That's why you send them on the show. YENA was unique because while she had gone to Produce 48 with the Future Everglow members, they were the Future Everglow members. After IZ*ONE debuted, Everglow debuted, meaning there was not a new girl group to slide YENA into. However, a lack of group has never stopped anyone before, and YENA was pretty busy following IZ*ONE's disbandment. She appeared in a couple of shows following the group's end, including Animal Detective, where this picture is from. And while the girls and I were very happy that YENA was booked and busy, that we were getting YENA content, that's not what we wanted. Or at least that's not what I wanted. Because UFOD announced as far back as June of 2021 that YENA would be releasing a solo album at some point in the future. So we knew solo music was coming. We just didn't know when. However, on January 17th, 2022, as a birthday present to me, we got our wish. The girls finally got what they were craving when YENA released her solo debut mini-album, Smiley. And if you were wondering, the hype was there for Smiley. Smiley, the album, was a huge success. It would peak at number 2 on the Gaon album charts and sold over 120,000 copies, making it one of the best-selling debut albums from a Produce follow-up female idol, like from a female soloist, one of the biggest. And more importantly, the song itself was a massive hit. I'm just going to be controversial, potentially, and say that Smiley is the biggest solo debut song we've seen from any former Produce idol ever. Like, of all time, any gender, all of it. The biggest solo debut we've gotten. Arguably bigger than anything IZ*ONE themselves managed to put out. The song started off relatively normal in terms of its success. It was about what one would expect it to do. That changed as time went on. Eventually, Smiley would go on to earn YENA a top 10 on both the Gaon and Melon charts and spent nearly a year in the top 100. Smiley was also a big hit on streaming. On Spotify, it has over 75 million streams. However, it actually overperformed on YouTube, where it has 96 million on the audio track alone. So we're talking hits across the board. But that's Smiley, the commercial product. Okay? I want to talk about Smiley, the song. Because I love Smiley, the song. Smiley is just so fun and cute and catchy and so diabolically poppy. This song is pop perfection to me, okay? It reminds me of that sort of like bubblegum pop that the girls used to do, mixed with like a smidge of pop rock and sheer volumes of modern sensibilities to make it arguably the perfect song to me. Like, maybe it's just the fact that we haven't had a lot of good original releases in 2026, but this feels like K-pop to me, right? Like, we can debate what K-pop is, but Smiley to me is what K-pop should be. It doesn't sound like someone heard the latest #1 single on the Billboard Hot 100 and forced their artist to make their own version of it. It feels like what K-pop used to feel like when I first got into it. And as a whole, this is a phenomenal song, right? Like, it's fun and addictive. It's everything I want K-pop to be. However, as much as I love Smiley, the song, you know what else I love? I love Smiley, the album. YENA does, at least in this era, make what the bestie has very often called Disney Channel music. And she isn't wrong. But, like, I am a child of the 2000s. I love some Disney Channel music. But let's get into the B-sides. And we're going to start with the first one, which is an interesting choice. It is an interesting start to the album, because we open with Before Anyone Else, which is a ballad. Okay, do you know how rare it is for a K-pop album to open with a ballad? It's like unheard of, essentially. But Yena did it, and it's a good ballad. It's pretty, her vocals get to shine, which she doesn't really get in a lot of her songs, so like, it's good, I like it. The rest of the B-sides bring in the pop, right? Like, she got her ballad out of the way at the start, now we get the pop. So our next B-side is Luck to You. This is very much a continuation of the title track. It just turns the pop rock up a smidge until we reach pop rock bliss, right? Like, the chorus is a banger, it is an excellent song. However, do not think it is all just pop rock of various forms. I want us to look at the album's closer, Vacay. That's summer pop, right? Like, specifically the kind of vibe of summer pop that's very Sistar coded, the sound that Sistar really popularized during their reign as queens, that kind of sound. And it's great. It's fun. The vocals are excellent. Like, in spite of the fact that we have a full ballad on this album that I do really like, I think this is her best vocal performance. And, last but not least, our golden B-side, Pretty Boys. Now, for those who are new here, the golden B-side is the award that I made up, that I give to my favorite B-side on whatever album I'm talking about, okay? It is very, very important that it is not the best song, but my favorite song. The best song on this album is Luck to You, like, objectively, at least amongst the B-sides. That is an objectively better song, but I like Pretty Boys more. That isn't to say Pretty Boys isn't a good song. It is an excellent song. It's giving me disco. It's giving me dancey. It's fantastic. Okay, the way the music just builds and builds in the pre-chorus before it just explodes in the chorus, which is also very good, by the way. Like, this song as a whole, it's giving me very Twice energy, and I mean that with the utmost respect. However, that is Smiley. That is the debut album from Yena. I'm not gonna sit here and say that Yena revolutionized pop music with Smiley, because she didn't, right? She was very much playing on established sounds that already existed in K-pop, but she did it in a way that made them better, right? Like, maybe not better, but certainly she knew how to use them in a way that meant that Smiley, in my opinion, is one of the finest K-pop debuts of the 2020s. Either way, Yena would spend about a month promoting Smiley. Her final music show performance would be on September 10th, where she would earn first place on M Countdown, securing a solo music show win. However, after that, things do quiet down. March was quiet, and then the next few months, Yena would pop up on occasion. She'd be on variety shows, she'd be in radio interviews and stuff like that, but we didn't get, like, a ton of Yena. It was still pretty chill. July, however, saw Yena starting to tease new music, and sure enough, on August 3rd, we got Smartphone, Yena's second mini-album, along with its lead single, Smartphone. Yena does not like to name her singles something different than the album. It's something I noticed, and it makes me a little crazy. Anyway, let's talk about Smartphone, the song, for a second, okay? I have a deep love for Smiley, we've established that, and Smartphone is a lot more complicated, okay? I love the chorus in Smartphone. Smartphone's chorus is one of Yena's best choruses. I have nothing but adoration for it, okay? It's another poppy, dancey, excellent chorus. The verses, less so. I'm not going to say the verses in Smartphone are bad, because I don't believe that they are bad. I don't think that. But I think they're lesser, right? I very much get how we got here from Smiley, but in my mind, it's like, if Smiley is camp rock, Smartphone is camp rock too. It's still good. It's just a less good version of what we already had. And society does seem to be on the same page as me in regards to Smartphone. The girls did not fuck with this song. So as we recall, Smiley, top 10 single, major hit. Smartphone did not crack the top 100 of the major charts. It peaked at number 119. On the Gaon charts, which is 110 spots lower than the last single. Same thing with streaming, right? Like, Smartphone has 10 million streams on Spotify. That's a good number. I can name artists that I do consider to be successful who do not have a song with 10 million streams on Spotify. That's also like a seventh of what her last song has. Thankfully, while Smartphone, the song might have been struggling, Smartphone, the album, did incredibly well. It would more than double Yena's first week sales from her last album, and currently has sold over 140,000 copies. It is her best-selling album to this day, and turned around another top 3 on the Gaon charts where it peaked to number 3. However, I know that you're all dying to hear how I feel about this album, and I think it's good. For starters, we open with another ballad. We this time open with Make You Smile, and while our last ballad was more of like a ballad, this one's a pop ballad, which works so much better for YENA. I liked her first ballad, don't get me wrong. I do really like it, but this one is the sound that I want from a YENA ballad. But we are not here for ballads, we are here for pop music, which means I want to talk about the pop songs, and we're going to start with the weakest one, which is also the last one, You. You is good, okay? It's a good song. It's the sort of pop song, though, that I've had enough of. It's like one of those fun Red Velvet songs. Like, it's not a bad time, I just didn't need that from YENA. On the opposite end of the spectrum, we have With or Without. This one's punk pop, okay? This is full punk pop, and it comes out in the perfect form in the chorus. Like, from the way she's singing to the drums, all of it is perfect. The verses are fine. I don't hate them. I don't think they're bad. I just think that they're fine. And lastly, our golden B-side, Lemonade. The music on this thing, okay, I foam at the mouth. It's the same producer as Pretty Boys, which means that I think I'm just in love with this man. But like, Lemonade is so good. It's synthy, and it's dancey, and it's fun, and it's catchy. It's everything I want from a YENA album. It's excellent from start to finish. As a whole, though, let's talk about Smartphone for a sec. Smartphone is good. Like, as an album. It's a good album. But Smiley is one of the best pop albums of 2022. And, like, Smartphone is good, but it is not a transcendent album to me, if that makes sense. It doesn't have the je ne sais quoi that Smiley had. Anyway, on that note, we're done with 2022. She's on and off for the rest of the year. We got a month of promotions, so like we're talking through September for promotions, then just like on and off appearances, year-end stuff that I don't care about talking about more than anything else. So, we've been here for a minute. I'm gonna take a break. You're gonna take a break. We're gonna have a retrospective moment. Well, hello there, and welcome to the retrospective corner. Now, if you're new, if this is your first History of with me, I just like to end every single year with a little break, a little retrospective, just to look back on the year, do some highlights, that kind of thing. And YENA is complicated in 2022, because Smiley was so big, right? Like, Smiley was huge, and it reminds me a lot of, like, Boom Boom by Momoland, or, like, Bar 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 by Crayon Pop, a song that itself was massive. And everyone knows, even to this day, the girls know Boom Boom by Momoland. But they don't remember Momoland themselves. Like, everyone seemed to tune in for the song, less so for the actual artist. Which brings me to thing number 2, which is YENA's actual music in 2022. And we're gonna start positive, okay? The Smiley album is a delight. YENA's debut album really feels like it came from someone who understands pop music. Not just who, like, knows how to make it, but who genuinely understands what works from it, and also what worked in the past. It feels like someone who both understands what came before and what's popular now, and can seamlessly blend the two. Like, people will compare a YENA song to something that came out in the mid-2000s, and I absolutely understand why. Plus, I think this is just a me thing, but, like, me and YENA are the same age, right? Like, YENA is a couple months younger than me, but we were both born in 1999. And I think that's so relevant to me, because it means we grew up listening to a lot of similar artists, right? Like, obviously YENA had a more Korean listen, I had a much more Western listening experience, but, like, we both grew up with the same time. And the things she's pulling from are the things from my childhood. And I think that's so important into why I specifically love her music so bad. Which brings us to the Smartphone album. I do think the Smartphone album comes from someone who understands modern pop music, less so someone who understands what came before them in the pop landscape, if that makes sense. Like, it reminds me a lot of Guts versus Sour, right? Guts is an amazing album. But Sour is an insane cultural reset kind of an album. It's the kind of album that comes along once a year if you're lucky. So, like, the two, you just can't compete where you don't compare is basically the point. And Smartphone's a good album, but it will never be Smiley. I wonder why I'm thinking so much about Olivia Rodrigo. I'm sure it's just because her new album is coming out soon, and I, for one, am very excited. I also did not get tickets to her tour, which went on sale this week, and I'm very upset about that. But either way, I'm sure she's not going to be relevant in this video for any reason. So let's go talk about 2023. Alrighty, welcome back and welcome to 2023. A very complicated year if we're being honest. However, we have no time to waste, okay? Because the year begins with January 16th, YENA released Love War, her first single album. And in spite of being a single album, a form of album that typically sees a massive decline in sales compared to minis and fulls, this thing sold great. It sold 125,000 copies and earned YENA her third consecutive top 10 album. Then there's Love War, the song. This is our second YENA single to have a feature on it. This time we have B.O. right at the height of his popularity, which means this song was a moderate hit. It was no Smiley by any means, but it did earn YENA her second charting single, peaking at number 71 on the Gaon charts and number 81 on the Melon charts. Nothing insane by any means, but certainly an improvement from her last single. The song also got a bit of a boost on streaming, like it has 20 million on Spotify, again, nowhere near Smiley's numbers, but still double what her last single got. Now let's talk Love War as a song, because this saw a big change for YENA. YENA's first two albums pulled from brighter pop sounds, right? Her first two singles are essentially bubblegum pop songs. This is arguably the opposite of that. Love War's a lot darker, okay? It's a lot sexier. If YENA's first two singles were like early Britney Spears era energies, then we're talking like Janet. We're talking Mariah. We're talking a lot more vocal, and also it's phenomenal. Plus, B.O. is great here. I am a self-admitted B.O. supremacist. I don't want to know if he's done anything fucked up. Okay? Let me have one thing, unless it's really evil, but like, let me have this. Either way, the point is, I like B.O., and he's great on here. His verse is good. Their voices mix really nicely. He was a great choice for a feature. Then there's the rest of the album. There's really only one actual B-side on this album, so our golden B-side by default is going to be Wash Away, and I'm fine with that. Like, Wash Away is a good song. It's another ballad, and it's a lot softer, I feel like. The music is still good. I really like the guitar, but as a whole, I feel like this is her best ballad yet. Maybe that's just a me thing, but like, to me, this is her best ballad yet. Either way, promotions for Love War were actually a bit shorter than her usual run. We only got about 2 weeks because we got something new. We got YENA's first tour. I may have misled you. This wasn't like a tour, this was a fan meet tour. So there were stops in Seoul and then a couple in Japan. It didn't last very long. It only ran for about a week and a half in total, but it's better than nothing. Things do quiet down after that, so we're gonna zoom ahead just a couple months. We're gonna specifically zoom ahead to June, when we got YENA's second single album, Hate XX. And unfortunately, this is where we see YENA's album sales start to slip just a little bit. It still sold well. This still sold about 100,000 copies. It did peak weirdly low. It didn't break into the top 10. As a whole, I'm not calling this like a disaster just yet, but we're starting to see some cracks form. Now, let's talk about the title track, Hate Rodrigo. There was a bit of drama around this song. So, in spite of the name, which is obviously a reference to Olivia Rodrigo, this song is an ode to Miss Olivia, okay? This song's all about how much YENA likes her and how cool she thinks she is. And I do have mixed emotions about this. On the one hand, right, like, YENA's sound is very clearly inspired, in part, by Olivia Rodrigo's Sour, right? Like, you can hear the influence that it had on her music if you are someone like me and who has listened to Sour 500 billion times. The problem is, so Olivia Rodrigo's company and her team did take this music video down, and I do understand why. Like, if I want to ignore everything else that goes on in relation to this video, like the actual context behind the song and all that, Olivia Rodrigo has something called likeness rights. Her face itself is copyrighted, and her face is in this a lot. It also probably didn't help that UiPod did try and get Hate Rodrigo trending on Twitter as Vampire was coming out. It wasn't well timed. That one I will give them is not exactly their fault. I would have abandoned the trending goal personally. I probably wouldn't have been like, everyone please start tweeting about how you hate Rodrigo, unrelated to the fact that her new single is coming out. It was not well timed, but like, I can see why Olivia's team was probably not a big fan of this thing. And if the scandal wasn't bad enough, to add insult to injury, Hey Rodrigo was also a pretty major flop of a song. Streaming numbers would actually stay pretty stable. They actually went up. This song is about 25 million on Spotify, but domestic numbers are what matter a lot more to me personally, and those took a big hit. We're talking number 117 on the Gone Digital chart. Not her worst, technically, but like, not ideal. But let's talk about Hate Rodrigo for a second as a song, because my lord, this song is a delight, okay? It's sort of like a bubblegum pop meets punk pop, and the two like merge, and the end result is truly phenomenal. The best part of the song is easily the chorus. It's so catchy and cute and hits so perfectly. Plus, Yuji from Giddle is on here, and Yena's higher tone mixed with her lower tone works wonders. Say what you will about Yena, she knows who to get on her singles. But that's the title. Let's talk about the B-sides, which are complicated. For once, there is no ballad on this album, but we do open with Bad Hobby, the first Yena song that I don't like. Okay, it's not that it's a bad song. Again, I don't believe that it is a bad song. It's just not really for me. It's not a style of song that personally I enjoy, and when I do have like a sit down listen to every single Yena song listened through, this is one of like 3 songs that I do actually just fully skip. Thankfully, that's not our only song on this album. There's a second B-side, our golden B-side, Wicked Love. This song is truly excellent. On an unrelated note, actually on a very related note, I'm just now noticing Tobias Nasland, who produced Pretty Boys and produced Lemonade, did produce Wicked Love. I didn't know that part. I did know he did the first 2. I didn't know about the third one until right now as I look at the credits. I might be obsessed with that man. Anyway, let's talk about Wicked Love as a song. Wicked Love as a song is phenomenal. I love Wicked Love as a song. It's dark, okay? It's creepy. It's that Halloween energy. Think Purple Kiss, okay? If you've heard a Purple Kiss song that isn't like one of their first 2, think one of those. Think like a late stage Purple Kiss when they were doing darker sounds. It's one of those. And it's everything to me. The chorus is phenomenal. The music is so cool. It's all excellent. Following Hey Rodrigo, we would get normal promotions. We got about a month, and then in August, Yena jumped back over to Japan where she made her Japanese debut. That is correct. On August 7th, we got a Japanese version of Smiley. BB was replaced by Chanina on this one, and it did exist, by which I mean it sold about 5,000 copies and did not chart well. So we're not looking good. I usually, if you were ever wondering what like my metric is for Japanese sales, depending on the artist's Korean sales, you can usually expect around a 10th in Japan if they're like on the weaker side to like even higher. Anything above a 10th of your Korean sales is good Japanese sales to me. And her last album sold about 20 times that. So we're not looking good in Japan, which is interesting because Eyes One was huge in Japan. And obviously there are external factors for why Eyes One was so big in Japan. Yena was not one of those factors. The song itself was a moderate hit in Japan. It wasn't like a complete abject failure of a debut, but it wasn't looking too hot. Moving into September, Yena would jump back over to Thailand. She held a fan meet in Bangkok. We also got the college festival circuit around this time. Yena loves the college festival circuit. To be fair, from my understanding, it's a very lucrative field. It's a very good field to sort of like build a good fan base. But either way, she did that. She did normal year-end stuff. We're done with 2023. We're going back to the retrospective quarter. Okay, 2023. Not a great year for being honest. First, like, commercially speaking, YENA wasn't an abject failure in 2023, but in comparison to 2022, she might as well have been. Now, let's talk about the music, okay? Because 2023 saw YENA shifting more towards a darker sound. 2022's music is very firmly brighter sounds, pop rock, right? That's what we get in 2022. 2023, we start going darker. And I'm very conflicted about this. On the one hand, I'm a pop girl. I've said this so many times on my channel. I love pop music. And YENA is so good at making that pop rock sound in a way that I don't think anyone is as good as her at doing it in the K-pop landscape. I do believe that. And also, I do really like her 2022 music. I already said this. I think me and YENA have similar music tastes. I think we would really vibe if we sat down and we talked about pop music. However, the issue is I really like her darker sounds, right? Songs like Wicked Love and Love War, I do think are some of her best songs. Which is like, how mad can I really be when she's still making excellent music? And that does kind of become like a core theme, that back and forth between a darker, more mature sound and that brighter bubblegum pop. The two going back and forth is a theme going forward, which brings us to 2024. Alrighty, everyone, let's talk about 2024. And for once, we don't open the year with an album. We open the year with concerts. YENA did some New Year's party concerts in Japan before heading back to Korea. Because, as is tradition at this point, we did still get an album in January. Specifically, we got Good Morning, YENA's third mini album. And remember how I was saying YENA's last album are when her sales start to slip a little bit, but it wasn't like horrifying yet? This is when they start to freefall. The album did still do pretty well, I would say. It sold about 80,000 copies, which is not horrible. It is also almost half of what her last mini album sold, and is also her first album to not sell 100,000 copies, so there's definitely something bad going on. However, the album is not my main concern. Okay, the album was a disappointment. Good Morning, the song, was a failure. Good Morning would peak at number 178 on the Gaon digital charts. It is her lowest peaking single to date, and around 100 spots from just 2 albums ago. Streaming numbers are arguably even worse. Okay, this thing has about 4.5 million streams on Spotify. Again, there are artists out there that would kill to get 4.5 million streams on Spotify. There are also B-sides on multiple YENA albums with more streams than this mainline single. Basically, it's not looking good. We got pretty bad album sales, a disaster of a single. It's not looking good. More accurately though, I should say that the song was a disaster on the charts, because Good Morning is actually a good song. If Hey Rodrigo had been pop punk meets bubblegum, this is just pop punk, and she does it so perfectly. The music is cool, the chorus hits perfectly, plus YENA's voice, as always, really fits well with this more rock kind of sound. I'm not gonna lie to you and be like, this song is a masterpiece, right? Like, this is YENA's best single. I actually don't think it is. I think the opposite. I think this is her weakest single since Smartphone, but I do still think it's really good and did not get the attention it deserves. Now, let's talk about the B-sides. We're not gonna start there on the album, like it's not the first song, but I want us to start with the ballad, so we're jumping to the last song. The Ugly Duckling is a phenomenal song, okay? YENA's been trying out different kinds of ballads over the year. This is her attempt at a rock ballad, and it is amazing. The music is so cool. This was produced in part by Seungyeon, like the unique member, which does make sense. He was still under UOPA at the time, but like my brain does not compute with Seungyeon, the unique member, and YENA ever interacting. I know they have. My brain just like can't compute it. Moving up a song now. Damn You. This song, I'm gonna tell you right now, does my biggest pet peeve in the world, which is that it censors the fuck. I understand why songs do this. Like, I understand that Tomboy really popularized it, and also I understand, like, culturally why that's a thing. I hate it. I hate it so much. Either say fuck or change the lyrics. I've been saying this for years, right? You can go like years on my channel and find videos of me saying this exact stance. It drives me up the wall. Don't be a little bitch. Just change the lyrics if you're not gonna say it. Okay, complaint aside though, Damn You is a phenomenal song, right? Like, it's pop rock. It was produced by my new favorite person, Tobias. This time I knew about that in advance. And, like, it's really good. The vocals when they come in at the pre-chorus. The chorus itself. It's amazing. I realistically might have called it my golden B-side, but I think the censoring kills it for me regardless. However, let's talk about our actual golden B-side. Another Tobias contribution. Everyone please work with Tobias immediately. But this time, it's Good Girls in the Dark. And this song is phenomenal, okay? It's another one of those like darker, creepier kind of sounds. It's very Purple Kiss-esque once again, and it's so good. The music is so cool. The vocals, listen, I know we've established that YENA is really good at bubblegum pop, she's really good at punk and rock and those kinds of sounds. She's also really good vocally at like the creepy. Is YENA a goated vocalist? No time to dwell on that, we have to move on. Now, YENA promoted the fuck out of the Good Morning album, probably to try and get some traction going for it. It didn't work. Either way, while she was busy doing endless promotions, we got a Japanese comeback with DNA. The album does have a Japanese version of Smartphone, of all songs, which is certainly a choice, but that was actually not the lead single. The lead single was DNA, an original song in Japan, and it's great. We've already established YENA's abilities and her chops at doing pop rock, so her doing like a J-poppy version of pop rock, an unsurprising hit. Or more accurately, it was a hit to me. The public did not engage. This sold even worse than her last album had in Japan, and I think this is why we have not gotten a physical Japanese release from her since this one, if I had to venture a guess. However, between back-to-back comebacks, constantly promoting her album, YENA was busy. Her last real public appearance to sort of this era was in KCON Hong Kong in March. After that, she went into hiding. She would pop up on occasion, as we know to expect. She's constantly on some variety show. But for the most part, the next several months are pretty quiet for YENA, which is good. Okay? As part of this video, I found like a list of her scheduled activities. If you saw like January and February, you would be concerned about her. I was concerned about her. However, YENA would finally return in September with her third single album, Nemo Nemo, and this thing was a hit. More accurately, I should say, the song was a hit. Nemo Nemo, the album, not so much. This thing continued the declining sales we'd been seeing with YENA, this time selling about 50,000 copies, so another pretty sizable drop from her last album. But it's fine, because now I get to talk about Nemo Nemo, the song. This song was huge. This was YENA's biggest hit since her debut across the board. For starters, the charts. Not only did this chart, which several of her singles hadn't, this song made it to number 35 on the Billboard charts, her highest peaking single since her debut. It also had longevity. It would spend about 5 months on the charts, integrated on streaming. It has more than 35 million streams on Spotify, almost at 40 at this point. So like, we're talking another great success across the board, easily her biggest in years, and especially after the less than stellar reception her last single got. And the thing is, Nemo Nemo is an absolute banger, okay? This is very much a return to her roots, a return to a brighter, poppier sound that she hadn't done in a while. Like, really, this is her brightest song since Smartphone, but while her early songs drew more from, like, pop rock and stuff like that, this is much more electronic. It's very second gen. And as someone who would never undermine the just delight that is a second-gen girl group song, I love this song. The music in the song is delightful, okay? The chorus is catchy, it's a banger, it's an amazing song. I completely understand why the public loved it. But the thing is, it's not just the title track that drew from an older sound. all of this album does it. Our first B-side is Sugar. That one feels like an old IU song to me, okay? Like back when IU used to make like really cutesy music, it's good. I like it. However, as we know, at least if you've been listening, you'll know, YENA's good at making cutesy music, but her true magnum opuses are when she does cutesy pop. Which brings us to our golden B-side, It Was Love. This song is fantastic. It starts slower, but builds really, really nicely. And by the time the chorus comes in, I'm jamming my little heart out, okay? The music is so phenomenal. Plus, the older influences are still here. I feel like this is a song that sounds like if A-Pink had made a pop rock song, which feels like a combination designed to have me specifically climbing the walls. But that's about it for 2024. We got about a month of promotions, then a little bit of a break, then normal year-end stuff. So why don't we go back over to the retrospective corner. So, 2024, a complicated year. Let's start negatively. And the place we have to start if we're talking negatives about 2024 is album sales. YENA's album sales at this point are essentially in a free fall. They are plummeting between each release. We are going at a rate where in like 3 albums she's going to be selling 5,000 copies. However, then there's the other half of the spectrum, which is Nemo Nemo. Nemo Nemo was huge when it came out, okay? Like, it was a massive hit, and YENA's been so interesting to gauge, both in the years I've been a fan of her and in making this video, looking at her in the lens of like, does the general public care about YENA is fascinating. Because at the end of the day, the answer is seemingly no. And then every once in a while, she'll put out a major hit single, and it's like, okay, but like, do they? Because YENA seems like an artist where the general public will hear that YENA dropped a song, and if they like it, they'll stream it. And the average person will be like, oh, I know Smiley, I know Nemo Nemo. But like, YENA herself does not seem to have the same size of a fan base you would expect from someone who's had the hits that she has had. And that's why I hesitate to call Nemo Nemo a win, right? Like, not just because I'm sitting here in 2026, I know what 2025 holds for her, but also because she's had hits in the past, and they did not translate to long-lasting cultural relevance in the way that one would expect them to. But on the topic of YENA songs, can we talk about YENA's music? Because this was a great year for YENA music. YENA's 2024 music, to me, almost feels like a resume in a lot of ways. It feels like YENA walked into the boardroom and was like, okay, I can make a darker pop sound. I can make a cutesy pop sound. I can make electronic pop. I can do ballads. I can do it all, and I can do it all well. But with that, let's see what YENA chooses to do in 2025. Okay, 2025, our final full year to cover, and I am going to warn you up front, this is a light year for YENA. For starters, January did not give us an album. Instead, we got a tour. This time it's an actual tour, like this was her first real tour. This tour ran for a while. It wasn't like an intense tour. There were like 2 really tough weeks of like Korea and then the Japanese shows, and then it was on and off throughout Asia before finally wrapping up in Taipei in May. That same month, YENA got to be the featured artist. She would feature on the song Loser from Bangtan member Jin's second mini album, Echo. I like this song. I'm gonna say, I actually do like this song. I don't think it's amazing by any means, but I do think it's good. It's a very, like, campy rock song. It's very Disney Channel, okay? Which makes sense, right? That's why YENA would be on here. It's a very Disney Channel kind of pop sound. That is her MO, at least for, like, what the general public probably thinks about her with Smiley. So, like, I get why she's here. And she does a good job, right? Like, she's good on the song. She does outserve Jin pretty much across the board, which frankly isn't a shock. Moving on. June was quiet, but July got us the release of YENA's 4th mini album, Blooming Wings. And I'm gonna tell you now, this is her biggest failure. For starters, this is her worst selling album to this day. It sold about 40,000 copies and barely made it into the top 10 of the album charts. So even by like YENA standards, it's not looking good. However, the real concerning thing is the single. The single, Being a Good Girl Hurts, was an abject failure. Doesn't even begin to cover what this song was, okay? For starters, it did not peak in the top 200 of the Gaon digital chart. It has about 5 million streams on Spotify currently. Okay, for context, her last song has a top 40 peak and about 7 times that streaming number. So it's not looking good. And the thing is, personally, I don't know what happened. Okay, like I have no idea what went wrong. Because for starters, the song is good. Okay, it's like orchestral meets bubblegum, but in a way that works really well. And it's more importantly a sound YENA typically does well with, right? Like I've covered other groups where they'll do like a major sonic shift and that will derail their career. Think Yoda Chingu with fingertip type thing, like a complete change in sound that no one fucks with. This isn't even that. Like, this is a sound that YENA has done similar songs to before, and those songs do well. I don't know what happened here. Whatever. I have no explanation for you, so we are going to move on. We're going to talk about the B-sides now. Our album opens with Drama Queen, and I do get the vision for this song, right? Like, it's campy, and it's messy, and it is not the perfect song. I'm not big on the execution. Is really it. I get the vision, I like the vision, and I think the end product is pretty good. For a frame of reference, I want us to jump to the last song on the album, which is 364. This one is also messy, right? Like, it's also campy, but it's a lot more fun, and I think it's the execution. This one is done through the lens of like a pop rock song, and as we know by now, YENA can absolutely eat up a pop rock song, and this one's a lot better. I like this one a lot. On the complete opposite end of the spectrum now, let's talk about Hello Goodbye. This one's really nice, actually. It's very chill. It's kind of just YENA and some nice guitar. It reminds me a lot of Bopagan, like the former duo turned soloist Bopagan. Like that sort of folky pop vibe. That's what I get from this song. And then our golden B-side, Anyone But You. This is also our first feature in like 2 years. It has media of Brown Eyed Girls on here. This song is fantastic. It's very second gen girl group coded once again, which makes the media feature phenomenal to me. And on the topic of this diva, she absolutely eats it up on this song. She is barely here. She's here for like 30 seconds, but those 30 seconds are fantastic. As a whole though, to me, this song is a lot cutesier than what I think of when I think of Brown Eyed Girls. It's still very second gen though, and for what it's worth, there are very few girl groups from second gen onward who didn't get something from Brown Eyed Girls. But as a whole, this song is a delight, right? Like, it's fantastic. The music is amazing. It's, to me at least, one of her strongest B-sides. Like, on par with some of my favorite songs from her debut album. However, that is the album. That is the Blooming Wings album, the experience. It's great. I do actually think this is one of YENA's strongest albums. Like, if I were to rank all her albums, I wouldn't put this at number 1 or even number 2, but it is certainly near the top, which makes its flop status even sadder. However, since the song was flopping, UOPA took a new approach. They dropped a Chinese version of the title track in August. This is fascinating to me as a freak who knows the lore. Okay, so for the unaware, UOPA is massive in China. They are one of the biggest agencies in China, which is so interesting to me because like they never in my mind promote their Korean groups in China. I know why, like legally. I understand why there's like never any attempt whatsoever at like bridging that gap, but like in my mind, I don't get it. Like to be fair, they did drop the single. It did also flop, so maybe they're onto something by never doing anything. Moving into September, we got another couple Japanese concerts, which is so convenient because a few weeks after that, YENA released a digital single with Star featuring Hatsune Miku. I am going to be so real right now. This song does not do much for me. I don't think it's a bad song. Like, my controversial stance is that YENA does not actually have any bad songs to her name, but this is probably her worst. Like, it's certainly her least impactful, I would say. There's actually, that's not true. There's like one song that I dislike more that we've already talked about, but like amongst the songs that are like a single of some form, this is the bottom. This song is fine. It's just fine. But that's it for 2025. We're done. I told you it was a light year and I did not lie. So for the final time in this video, we will be jumping back to the retrospective corner. So 2025 did suck real bad for YENA. Like, I could sugarcoat it. I could talk about the good stuff, because there was good stuff, and I will touch on it in a second. But this is rock bottom YENA, right? Like, this is the worst we will ever see from her, at least popularity-wise. In positive news, though, like, we do see a lot from YENA. There wasn't a lot to cover, because it was mostly performances, but, like, YENA went on her first actual tour. She did a huge run on the circuit for festivals, both university and major ones. YENA was booked and busy. She was also flopping. Another thing I want to talk about with YENA in 2025 is her music itself, because this year is fascinating to me for the lack of changes that we got. I feel like between years in the past, we see YENA start to mix it up, right? Like 2023, she starts to get darker. 2024, she starts mixing in more electronic sounds. 2025, we get sounds from YENA she's been doing. Right, like, there's nothing in 2025 from her that I would consider, like, out of left field, a sound that she hasn't done in the past. The weirdest thing she released this year was Star, and I don't need more of that. But that's all I got for 2025, so let's go wrap this thing up and talk about 2026. Okay, people, we made it to current year 2026. Let's do this. Nothing important happens at the start of the year, so we are going to fast forward to March, when YENA released Love Catcher, her latest mini album, and more importantly, she released its lead single, Catch Catch. We are, however, going to still start with the album. Love Catcher marks a very important change. It is YENA's first album since Smartphone to outsell its predecessor. Now, it didn't outsell it by much. It sold about 45,000 copies, but at least we're not seeing another decline. Then there's the single, Catch Catch, which is massive. Okay, I would say it was massive, but like, as of me sitting here, this song is in the top 10 of the charts. Yeah, I guess spoilers, but this song is a huge hit on the charts. It is YENA's second ever top 10 single, her first since her debut. Its longevity is obviously not clear because it just came out, but like, I do believe it's gonna chart for minimum 6 months. It is also doing phenomenally well on streaming. It's currently at about 35 million streams and is currently her third most streamed song. And I'm saying currently as of me recording this video because there's a very real chance that by the time this actually comes out, it will already be ahead of Nema Nema and will be her second most streamed song. And the thing is, Catch Catch is one of those songs that deserves it all and more. We've been talking for the last couple albums now about how YENA is slowly drawing less from modern sounds and more from second gen music. And this is where she embodies that fully. Catch Catch is nothing short of an ode to the sound that is second gen. It's electronic and it's dancey and it's cutesy. It's the most second gen thing I've heard this decade, and we've gotten actual full-fledged albums from groups like Kara and Tiara. Plus, the song is a delight, right? Like, it's catchy and it's fun and it's cool and I love it. And in a year of 2026, right, where most of the big releases we've gotten from major groups have been ass, have been boring, have been them playing it safe. I could really describe the theme of like a lot of the big 2026 albums as playing it safe. And the ones that try good things typically fail. So like in that sort of environment, here comes YENA with a song that is the funnest thing we've gotten this year and is an absolute beast on the charts. I want this to be an inspiration to the masses. This is what K-pop should be. Make fun music. And as always, the album is just as good. Our first B-side is Spring Fever. This one brings in features from Jung Hyun and Din Din to bring us more second-gen pop, this time with raps, and it's a delight. It continues the vibes of the title really well. I really like it. This album actually has a metric ton of collabs on it, so we're going to talk about YENA's only solo single next, which is April's Cat. This is like a pop piano ballad. It's really good. I feel like YENA hasn't done a ballad in years at this point, and it's a shame because she sounds incredible. Moving to the next song after that, which is the album's closer, this time we get a feature from Paul Kim. It's really nice. It's like a cute, jazzy love song. It's really good. The vocals are mixing really well. It's a good song. It's a really nice, sweet song. And lastly, our final golden B-side, Sticker. I'm gonna be so real right now. I do firmly believe that anyone who's made it this far into the video and has listened to this album in the last week probably could have told you that this was gonna be my golden B-side. In my defense though, this song is phenomenal, okay? It's first, the music. The music is so good. I'm jamming my little heart out the entire song. Like, the way it just builds and builds before it kind of calms down in the bridge and then just cuts out for the start of the last chorus, so we get those soft vocals. I cried tears of joy. And speaking of the vocals, this might be YENA's best vocal performance ever in her music. It features singer March also, and the way their vocals mix is so perfect. I genuinely want an entire mini that's just these two collabing, because if this is the level of quality we get for a one-off song, imagine an album. Anyway, that is the Love Catcher album. It reminds me a lot of what I said about the Smiley album, because I think it's her best album since that one, right? This album feels like it came from someone who understands pop music, both the history behind it and the current trends, to create something amazing. And this album is amazing. This is one of my favorite albums released in 2026. It is an absolute gem. And once again, YENA really promoted this album. The most important piece of promotion, however, is the tour. YENA would launch her second official tour in April, starting in Seoul. Which brings us to today. YENA did just drop a single in Japan. It's good. I like it. It isn't making a ton of noise. It's also brand new. It's been out for 2 days. So there's that. Looking to the future, she is technically set to wrap the tour in June in Tokyo. After that, my current prediction, we're gonna get an album in July or August. I do think it's going to flop, but I would love to be proven wrong. However, only time will tell, and until then, this has officially been the history of YENA. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked this video. I hope you liked something that isn't several hours long. I do love making my 90+ minute monstrosities, but those take a long time. Not that this didn't, but those take a long time. But thank you for watching. I do hope you like this. I do want to do more soloists, because I feel like K-pop focuses so much on groups, and I understand why, but there are so many soloists that have such good music. Ichaeon just released a mini album. That's one of my favorites this year. Chungha has released some of the best music of the past 10 years. Somi has good music. And that's just focusing on the produce girls, right? The number of solists that I could go on tirades about is endless. And maybe one day I will. But until then, thank you so much for watching. I do hope you liked this. If you did, like and subscribe, or don't. I will be fine either way. In the description, I will put a playlist that has all of my other history ofs. The last one is 3 hours. If you want to watch the last one, it's a history of TXT. I will full name them because I get yelled at when I don't. But if you want to watch that, it's 3 hours long. There's a bunch of artists though. I've done a slew, a variety, from the eras they existed in to their levels of popularity to all of it. I talk about anyone on this channel, if you didn't pick up on that. I am not afraid to make an hour-long video about a group whose cumulative album sales sit at under 1 million in the year of our Lord 2026, who have never charted a song. So I'll talk about anyone, okay? But if you can check those out if you so choose. That's my point. You can check those out if you so choose. I think that's all I got. So yeah, thank you again for watching. Bye!